All right, my favorite people, White Sterling here, and I'm back at it again with another topic for you. Answering the question is, shall I start with single family, smaller multifamily, or just go straight to apartments? So you'll definitely want to stay tuned until the very end, especially if you're someone who is uncertain where to start. And of course, don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well as the notification bell. And then those of you who are listening on World Star Hip Hop, SoundCloud, iTunes, go ahead and leave that rating. It would really mean the world. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. All right, first and foremost, I do just want to give some context on myself for those of you who are just now coming across the channel and myself. Name is Sterling White, buy and hold investor, born and raised in Indianapolis, Indiana. Grew up with a single mother, fraternal twin brother. Some people say we look alike. I don't think so. He's as dark as Wesley Snipes. And living in that type of environment, you never actually knew if you were going to live the next day, and had a couple close calls. One being when I was 5 years old, was sitting at the kitchen table with my brother, and we're eating cut up hot dogs and ramen noodles, and then as soon as I get up, we both get up, we go upstairs and we're playing video games or something, playing video games, and then a bullet comes right through the back patio where we were sitting. So I statistically actually should not be sitting here, but that just goes to show you what is possible when you're willing to go out there and have faith and just do the work. So got started in real estate 2009 on construction side, started buying single family shortly after, bought 150, and then started buying multifamily in 2017. So started with single family, and then went to smaller multifamily, and then went to mid-size to larger. Of course, that is subjective. So let's go ahead and start with the single family side of things on the pros and cons, and then we're going to go into each and really allow you to make a decision which one would make the most sense for you. And let's start out with single family, which is commonly where people do start, myself included, when I shifted from construction to buying rental properties. And this tends to be a lower barrier of entry, and it is a lower barrier of entry, especially when it comes mentally, because it could be quite daunting for someone to start with a 5 unit, a 20 unit, 100 plus unit apartment complex. So this is a good way to be able to get your foot in the door. Second, there is a lot more of these that are out there that's just been built, so you have more of an abundance opportunity. And then thirdly is they tend to be cheaper. And this is market dependent, of course, because let's say you're buying a single family house in California, for instance, and I'll give you an example, is that my very first deal, which was a 46 unit apartment complex in Indianapolis, was $900,000 as the purchase price. Of course, there was more money that was raised to take care of improvements, but that's 46 units, $900,000. In California, a single family house costs that. So it is market dependent, but however, the cons with this is that very difficult to scale. If you're buying 1 to 2 or 3 or 4 or so, then that is a route that you can go. However, if you're looking to scale, ask me how I know. When I got up to 150 single families, that was a lot of transactions, very hands-on on the management side, and just very difficult to scale that because there was a lot more moving parts involved with that. And then also the downside when it comes to the risk is you're either 100% occupied or you are 100% vacant. So that's the risk. And let's say you have a mortgage on the property. You're simply not able to go to the lender and say, hey, by the way, I just want to mention that I actually don't have a tenant in the property. So either way, they're going to say, well, your mortgage is still due. So that's the thing is when you have a single family house, yes, you're 100% occupied or you're 100% vacant. All right, and the next is smaller multifamily, and this is between 2 to 4 units. The pros with this is that anything under 5 units is still considered residential, so those are the type of loans that you're able to get, which are much easier for most to obtain that versus a commercial loan. And then the second is that if from a mental standpoint, it's easier for people to go with the 2 to 4 unit versus now going with the 10 to 20 to 30 unit, for instance. So that's really the pros with the smaller multifamily is one, now you have more diversification, because if you have a 4 unit, one tenant moves out, you still have 3 that are paying. And then secondly, the type of loans that you're able to get from the residential side. And then also there's actually more of those that are out there, not as much as single family, but there's still more of an abundance out there. But once you start to get to the larger multifamily, there's even less of those and more competition. And then the last but not least, which I may be a little bit biased, is the mid-size to larger multifamily. The pros with this is you've got the economies of scale. So as I mentioned earlier, is that I've had 150 single families, and also I own a 150 unit apartment complex. Is that the time that it took and then to find a 150 unit apartment complex, and then also the ongoing management is a lot less of a burden than it is for the 150 single families. So one transaction, one seller with that property. With the 150 single families, there was a close to about 110, 120 transactions, because in some of those closings it would be package of 2, maybe if we're lucky we'd get a package of 3, but mostly it was a lot of just one-offs with that. So the second is more attractive financing. Is that on the commercial side, because one, you've got your residential loans and you've got your commercial loans, is that there is a lot of lenders that find this asset very attractive because they understand the economies of scale, the diversification that's also involved with the number of units and the level of risk. So the financing that's out there is very attractive for you to be able to obtain. And then also many of those type of financing is actually asset based, to where you can get a non-recourse loan, to where they're able to just, if things hit the fan for whatever reason, that they're not able to personally come after you, if that would be a recourse loan versus it being non-recourse, and they're just able to take the asset and not personally come after you. And then the next pro is the diversification, is that let's say a rent moratorium happens and you've just got some tenants that are just not able to pay rent. You've got let's say a 60 unit apartment complex, and you've got 5, 7 or so, or let's say 10 that are not paying, is you still have others, let's say 50 or so in that case of the 60 unit, 10 not paying, is that you should still have plenty enough income coming in to be able to service that debt. Of course, unless you over leverage, but that's a whole nother conversation in itself. Higher barrier of entry mentally. Most people just are not able to just skip right up to multifamily, and I'll tell you guys, it's completely fine. I know that you see people out there such as myself or others that are closing on these deals, but just to start where you are comfortable. And I pull from both ends. I'm not the person that says go big or go home. I'm saying start where you're comfortable, and then gradually build up to that once you've got the confidence. And then also secondly, the con with this is the investment up front. You're normally dealing with more zeros on multifamily versus when you're dealing with smaller with apartments versus when you're dealing with smaller multifamily or even single family. So the cash up front, many people are just not able to simply put together. So that's what I have for you all. Trust you enjoyed as well. All right, so one thing I do want to end off on is a book recommendation, one I just started reading, which is the autobiography by Will Smith. I just enjoy autobiographies and then also documentaries where it goes into behind the scenes and what shaped people to who they are, and is actually telling it from their perspective. So this is definitely one worth checking out, where he actually goes back into his childhood and how a lot of the good, the bad, and the ugly has shaped him to where he is today, and also the work ethic and just constantly just being persistent and just showing up and having a long-term view are the biggest takeaways that I've gotten from it so far. And it's been I just enjoy these books. So go ahead and check that book out. When I don't get paid for you to go to Amazon, and there's no link for that, for you to be able to just grab that copy. You can even go to the library, I'm sure, and get it for free. So those of you, don't forget subscribe button as well as the notification bell. Literally leave a comment below if you have read this or if you have listened to this all the way through, with the comment being Will Smith just below, those of you on the YouTube, and then those of you who are on World Star Hip Hop, SoundCloud, etc. Leave that rating. It would really mean the world. Keep being awesome. I appreciate you so much. Thank you.